Mike Snow, and if we could get Kevin Heatltey on deck.
Oh, good evening. My name is Michael Snow. I'm that's M-I-C-H-A-E-L-S-N-O-W, local union steward from Binghamton, New York.
Please speak to the microphone, sir.
Did you catch that? Yes. Yeah. From biologists to state engineering to extensive environmental studies, we have proven over and over again that this industry's standards of work habit, safety, and environmental protection, but most of all, the concern for human longevity. As far as the ignorance of the opposition's role, you have helped this industry become the safest, most professional, most environmentally safe construction field of ethics in the world. Open your wallets and be ready for the next round of tax increases. The opposition has cost these communities millions in lost wages and jobs. We have been living in a state of oppression, depression, and suppression. We will continue to live in a state of unproductive, unemployed, desperate living conditions. We can no longer afford to wait for unjustified delays. You will not stop this industry's future production. It will proceed. You are only costing yourselves, your communities, your local services from a better standard of living. Our local unionized workforce is the most certified, qualified, trained industry in the United States. The last major pipeline to run across the Pennsylvania border into New York ran nearly 700,000 man-hours with only one small recordable incident. Proving unionized companies work, no other workforce has the safest history of work standards. It is time to end this unnecessary scrutiny and move forward. I'm begging FERC and the State Commission Service and our state representatives to release the permits necessary to put us back to work. Thank you.
Wendy, Lynne, Lee.
Who's next?
Kevin looks like Heatltey.
That's close enough. Yeah. Spell it. Yeah, it's Kevin Heatltey, H-E-A-T-L-E-Y. And I am going to address the audience, because there's a good-looking bunch of people here tonight. I am a professional restoration ecologist. I make my living running around the United States repairing damaged ecosystems. So I have specialized expertise in both ecology and in invasive species. Okay, now I did a professional review of the FERC EIS. I also reviewed the resource documents that were submitted by Constitution Pipeline LLC, and they're grossly inadequate with respect to the ecology and the ecological impacts, and I'm going to give you a couple of examples. I have prepared documents that are going to be forwarded to FERC, but I wanted to give the audience in particular an understanding, because this isn't some warm and fuzzy tree-hugging nonsense. I'm not an environmentalist. I'm talking about a resource that is an economic driver that's sustainable for generations, okay? This drives jobs and communities for generations. I'm not about the birds and the bees and some warm and fuzzy nonsense. But what the FERC document does is it ignores major ecological impacts. I'm going to give you a quick explanation of some of these things. Number one, they talk about interior forest. Interior forest, by definition, is forest that's at least 300 feet away from non-forest. It's not near the edge. Anybody that's a hunter knows this. They know the edge habitat is different from the interior forest. Okay, FERC recognizes this in the document. They talk about the definition of interior forest as being 300 foot. Why is that? Because there's edge impacts. There's moisture changes and there's light changes on the forest floor, which changes everything. So if you're a landowner and your forest is buggered up by a right-of-way, you're going to bear the cost of that, changing your forest composition. That's cost. That's cost to the landowner. That's adjacent to these things, 300 foot either side. Okay? FERC recognizes edge impacts because they recognize interior forest. But when they're talking about the impacts to the forest, what do? They only talk about the clearing zone. Now, you can't have it both ways. Either you recognize the 300-foot edge or you don't. And they do, because they recognize interior forest. You can't have this kind of logical inconsistency in a document and not have people get annoyed. Because if I'm a landowner and that pipeline goes through my forest or the edge of my forest, I got 300 foot in. What's the difference, you say? All trees are the same? No. Invasive species. Edge habitat is a biological driver to invasion. And what's invasion? You know, we could talk about anything from Japanese stiltgrass to multiflora rose. What does FERC do? They say, okay, you know, Constitution in their documents, they say, we're gonna monitor invasives for 3 years, but only on the pipeline right-of-way, not into the adjacent 300 foot. So not only do they underestimate the impact zone, they give the acreage as just the clearing and not the additional 300 foot. It's orders of magnitude larger than what they're telling you. But they only say 3 years worth of monitoring and treatment for invasives only on the right-of-way. Okay? As long as there's edge, until those trees grow back, there will be biological invasion. Constitution or whoever owns this right-of-way should be mandated to take care of those biological invasions for the life of the right-of-way. That's only fair. Why should I, as a landowner, have to pay to treat stiltgrass in my forest? Because these guys went and put a right-of-way through there and didn't take into account what they even recognize as edge impacts. And there's other problems in here. I mean, they're talking about hydrostatic water. Okay, you're going to take 2 seconds or 2 minutes? 20 seconds? Okay, I'm done then. If anybody has a question, feel free to come up and ask me after this. Thank you very much.
Wendy, Lynne, Lee, Dave, Laidacker.
My name is Wendy Lynne Lee. I am a professor at Bloomsburg, University of Pennsylvania. I teach philosophy of ecology. I want to reiterate just a little bit of what Kevin Heatltey said and make sure that you understand what some of these ecological impacts really are. And what I want to speak particularly as a union member tonight to union members in the room, because my message to you is that your jobs are being purchased as a theft from both the ecology and from the communities of the future, because your jobs are going to depend on what is real environmental destruction and an industry that is lying to you. Here are just a few points about the ecological devastation, particularly with respect to forest destruction. FERC grossly underestimates the area of forest impacted as it restricts impact to the area where trees are actually removed. In actuality, the edge effects, the zone where the forest changes due to additional light penetration and moisture loss, extends at least 300 feet into the forest and into the area from the area of disturbance. This is standard in conservation biology. Right? This isn't guessing. This isn't fuzzy. This is the science. Instead of the 983 acres of upland forest that FERC claims will be impacted, the area of forest impacted is orders of magnitude larger. FERC must take edge impacts into account when determining acres of the forest that are impacted. FERC recognizes edge impacts as they use the definition of interior forest as, quote, forested areas greater than 300 feet from the influence of forest edges or open habitat. Here is the kicker of this. If they recognize interior forests, they must recognize edge effects and thus count them in the tabulation of the forest land that is impacted. And they don't. They cannot have this both ways. Right? They are, in fact, lying to you. FERC must provide the total acreage of interior forest that will be lost if this pipeline is built. Right now, they either just provide the acres clear, or they try a smoke and mirrors approach by describing the number of interior forest blocks before and after the pipeline rips them apart. The number of blocks, this is simply useless, pointless, empty information. If they're not going to tell us what the total acreage of interior forest is, right, we won't even know what will be lost. Right? And that is just one more way in which this industry, in fact, deceives you. The pipeline right-of-way will create edge habitat that will encourage the invasive species, just as Heatltey mentioned. Let's see, edge habitat due to moisture and light, along with the animals, the critters like this habitat, and they poop out invasive seeds. It's the perfect habitat for invasive species. The Constitution needs to monitor and treat invasive species along the row, along the right-of-way, for the entire lifespan, not just for a few years after construction. And what we know is that they won't do this. FERC is recommending the Constitution develop an upland forest mitigation plan.
20 seconds, please.
All right, so I'm going to pause there. But what I want to say is that what we know since 2006, 2007, is that this is an industry, the natural gas industry, the midstream industry, that consistently deceives us, consistently destroys our land, consistently violates our property rights. And this pipeline should not be built.
Laidacker, Bambi, Hanson.
Yeah, my name's Dave Laidacker. I'm from Dansville, Pennsylvania. I'm glad to see you union. I'm glad to see the union guys here. Two of my best friends are union pipe fitters. I know they're dedicated to their job, but there's other issues they don't understand, and they even admit that they don't understand the dangers of what's coming down the road. While FERC is preoccupied by inking their rubber stamps of approval, I'd like to address my concerns about the unconstitutional pipeline directly to the citizens in attendance. I hope you are not here tonight with great expectations that they are concerned about your interest. They are only concerned about making money for the oil and gas companies and have no concern how this pipeline affects the taxpayers of Pennsylvania. This is nothing new. Whether it's Monsanto, General Motors, or the Wall Street banking system, the corporations have infiltrated the original intent of our government and left us with very little recourse to defend ourselves. There are issues very seldom brought up to light in these type of meetings, and that's civil rights and community rights. The regulatory system, by its definition, regulates harm. It assumes harm will take place, and all we are left doing is trying to get harmed a little less. The government officials for the past decades have dramatically increased the removal of any local control by the citizens relating to issues of water, air, related health effects, and diminished property values caused by energy generation. The only control your local township has today is to site unwanted industries in a designated area created by zoning laws. Unfortunately, if you live in the zoned area, you're screwed. In Pennsylvania, as most of us know, there was a failed attempt by your elected officials or your elected corporate officials to remove environmental zoning regulations just for the gas companies. How do they get the privilege above the citizens of Pennsylvania? Fortunately for Pennsylvania, a portion of this bill, which is Act 13, were found unconstitutional, just like the constitutional pipeline should be unconstitutional. Tonight, we are negotiating away our absolute right to clean air, potable water, and the right to take back our right of self-governing. Tonight, our constitutional rights and privileges under the Constitution is unlawfully being negotiated by our lawmakers and regulators. They are here to speak on behalf of corporate America, not the citizens they should be representing. The experts are willing to trade off industry concessions by implying they are managing or reducing the harm corporations inflict on our communities. Left out of the discussions and deal cutting are the people and communities who will have to endure the legalized poisoning while the state government preempts them from protecting themselves. All this is done to guarantee the privileges bestowed on the corporations by the government that superficially represents the residents of Pennsylvania. The citizens of Pennsylvania need to take action and criminalize our politicians and corporate America for environmental and human health degradation caused by extreme gas production. Corporate America and its political lapdogs legalize it by issuing permits. The question of law presented by this confrontation between the people, their municipalities, and the state government is this: are state regulatory laws superior to fundamental rights of the people? Why can the state adopt laws that deny and violate those rights of citizens? It's important that we not accept the default premises advanced by extractive industries, that the privileges of the state-chartered corporations are superior to the inalienable rights of the people, and that the state has authority to license corporations to violate those rights. We need to defend our communities and the natural environment by not allowing these assumptions to go unchallenged. Let's not accept the premise that we, the people, have no authority to outlaw industrial practices that inflict poisons, diseases, environmental harms. They are treating our communities like resource colonies and sacrifice zones. Thank you.
Can you please spell your last name real quick?
Yeah, Laidacker.
Thank you. Bambi, Hanson. Bart, Jennings.
It's Bambi, B as in boy, A-M as in Mary, B as in boy, I, Hanson, H-A-N-S-O-N. Did you get the spelling?
Yes.
Okay. This is the local newspaper of Schoharie County, New York, dated February 19th, 2014. The first of the 4 public FERC meetings was held there on Monday night. I was born and raised in Schoharie County. Sorry. Did you get that?
He'll give you an extra minute.
Okay. The newspaper I held up was from Schoharie County, New York. It was dated February 19th. The first of the 4 public meetings this week was held there on Monday night. I was born and raised in Schoharie County, and I'm now a proud resident of Pennsylvania. The front page article says, FERC has ruled that Constitution Pipeline's proposed project through parts of Schoharie County would have a, quote, less than significant environmental impact if, the key word if, promised mitigation steps are followed. We want to know what less than significant means. What are the promised mitigation steps? Who will enforce that these steps are followed? FERC found this pipeline project would have some adverse environmental impacts, but these impacts would be reduced to, again, less than significant levels. Again, we demand to know what less than significant means. The process of extracting natural gas by fracking is dirty and dangerous. Transporting it through pipelines with the use of giant compressors is just as life-threatening and dirty. You can already see the negative environmental impacts in many Pennsylvania counties. I've been a nurse for more than 30 years. As a healthcare provider, I am proud to belong to Nurses Against Fracking. I will be able to tell my grandchildren and their children that I stood up and spoke in defense of their beautiful land, clean water, and fresh air. I spoke up to protect their quality of life, which they are not able to speak about at this time. No amount of money can buy any of the resources that I am here to protect. These pipelines are being built to transport natural gas to coastal U.S. facilities where it will be converted into liquid natural gas, put in giant tankers and transported across our oceans to China, India, and Japan. The natural gas industry has promised these and other countries that they can supply natural gas for 10 to 20 years. Geological surveys prove natural gas supplies will be exhausted before 20 years. This fracking and pipeline network is not about our national energy security is about the natural gas industry profits, we will be left with the mess to clean up. You only need to remember history. When natural resources are at stake, there are no rules except maybe one: profits before people. FERC's dEIS is shallow, vague, disingenuous, and misleading. No project should be considered with this so-called environmental impact statement. Thank you.
Tammy Manning.
Does that say Bret or Bart? I'm looking, it's about where I signed. It's Bret Jennings, B-R-E-T-J-E-N-N, Councilor, Great Bend Borough, Penn Charter definition of councilor, and Chairman Halstead, Great Bend Joint Sewer Authority. For the unions, it's nice seeing you out here. Some of the best people that work on environmental remediation programs, the workers, the best ones are the unions. Fortunately, ask the plumbers and pipe fitters local 83 what happened when they were going to get hired. They got hired to train the people that they were going to hire at a lesser wage. Scranton, one of the union bosses down there, testified in Harrisburg. They're not going to get it. But let me get back on to this boilerplate environmental statement. I work as an environmental consultant. I'm reading through the 900 some odd pages. Some of it's fluff, some of it you can go to other documents and find the same wording. Just different places here and there you go in and change it. Of course, I didn't find where they forgot to change. One thing not addressed, most of this pipeline's in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. And there's severe reductions that have to be met by 2017 and 2025. How much total nitrogen from this and induced development from this pipeline will be created? How many square miles? Is it 10 acres of pipeline, the road? Pipe yards, are they already building pipe yards, stockpiling their pipes? That should be part of it. This total nitrogen, total phosphorus, total suspended solids. If DEP or EPA comes in and does what they said in the 2009 December 29th letter of regulating and cutting in half or to the limits of technology our sewer plants, Binghamton's going to have to build a new sewer plant. I might have to build a new sewer plant. And I'm not talking, oh, this is only a couple acres right here, the road, the well pad front, the entire development going to that pipeline. Upper Susquehanna watershed, is that going to be 20, 30, 40, 100 square miles? Are you going to be 200 square miles within 30 years of development of this? You know, but that's the Upper Susquehanna and Chemung watersheds and Lower Susquehanna. Will they be required to purchase offsets from Penvest for their PA section, or if New York DEC sets up a similar program? I won't go in on the owners, on their abilities to be actors. I've already done that. FERC spoke about it here in Blue Ridge High School. That doesn't need to be redressed. But the total nitrogen. Also, drainage. What's the increased drainage for the watershed from the induced development? Will it change our flood maps again? I've had to approve the flood maps going back to FEMA. FEMA's increasing the rates. All of it's intertwined. Development and the cleanup for the Chesapeake Bay and what's being forced upon us. If they don't do it, our sewer plants, our MS4 permits for stormwater facilities will be impacted by EPA. and they'll get a free pass.
Tammy Manning. Matt Manning.
Hi, Tammy Manning, Tammy Manning. I don't have Bret's credentials. I graduated in this school, and I live just over the mountain in Franklin Forks. And I've seen the irresponsible gas drilling that we've seen in our area. We have a water buffalo to show the irresponsibility. We don't want to see more pipelines coming into our area. We don't want to see the pipelines that are here in our area. We don't want to see the gas drillers in our area anymore. We've had enough of the spills in the newspapers, the blowouts, the explosions at the compressor stations, which we have a compressor station 1.5 miles from our home. I'm sure that if more pipelines come in, we're going to have more gas drilling coming into the area. Those of you who are not surrounded by it probably don't realize that the frac trucks go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, past your bedroom window, all night long. You cannot sleep. And we've had enough. And jobs, if you're going to say that it's creating jobs, this is from this week's newspaper, Times Tribune, and it talks about the job data being as flimsy as the gas. New York, despite a moratorium on gas extraction, had a greater job growth than in Pennsylvania and the Marcellus. Front page, Times Tribune. Drilling is killing our water. We're living proof of that. And I just want to show you this. This is a map of our area. We're the little star here in the middle. The red are all casing failures near us in a straight line. So, you know, just some of a few of the mistakes that they've made, and we just don't trust you anymore. Thank you.
Kemble.
Hi, my name is Matt Manning. It's M-A-N-N-I-N-G, and that was my wife Tammy that was just up here talking. And we've been living this nightmare for the past 3 years, along with some of the other folks in this room. We bought a house in 2010. A year and a month later, our water, along with 4 or 3 other homes in our town, turns black. And everybody's that has problems down here is just brushed under the carpet. It don't matter, you know, if jobs or whatever. People's water goes bad. You got so much methane coming in your house. You can't use your kitchen stove in the middle of winter to cook your dinners. You can't use your furnace to heat your home. You have to take one day of your week, every week, to go and get yourself water that's clean enough to bathe in for your children and your grandchildren to bathe in. You have to pay to heat that water. Not one local official or town representative or state official has come to my house and see what's wrong or what's going on. Nobody cares. You're brushed under the carpet. We have 2 different wells that were beside us, and one was being drilled, one was being fracked, and all of a sudden 4 homes' water turns black. And you've got so much gas coming in your house that you have to take a shower in the middle of winter with your windows open and your fan going and your outside window open because of risk of explosion. Every time the fire alarm would go off, my wife was scared to death that the home blew up. And nobody should have to live like that and just be brushed under the carpet. Now, the nearest well to us is 4,000 feet. The one that's suspected of damaging our water is 7,000 feet. And there's a direct link to the well that's 7,000 feet away to our water that proves that it caused our water problem. And it's right in front, it's right on the DEP's own documents and everything, right in front of everybody's face, but nobody will admit it. Nobody will come out and say publicly that they caused the water problems because it's 7,000 feet away. And right now the regulations are 2,500 feet. We live in a valley. All the wells are around us on the hilltops. One's being fracked, one's being drilled. All of a sudden, 4 homes, all on the same day, the water turns black. I mean, you're better off bathing in a mud puddle than you are our water. Not only did our water fill with methane, but it also filled with high levels of metals, dangerously high levels of metals, that caused my dog to have a tumor. We had a cat that had numerous litters of kittens that were born dead afterwards. And every once in a while, the kids would leave the toilet lid open and the dog would be drinking out of it. Now she's got a huge tumor on her side. She's been perfectly healthy until then. We were fortunate enough to have the black water and spot it before we drank any of it, and we quit drinking it, so luckily we haven't developed anything yet that we know of. But you know, there's just so much cover-up with all this stuff that's going on down here. Nobody wants to admit it goes on. And when this happens to a family, your home's devalued. We found one insurance company that would insure our home, only one. It's not fair to the people who have to live like this. Your home's now worth nothing. You can't sell it. You can't rent it. If you know these people are going to come in here and take this gas out and pump it to all the other countries, when the families are made to live like this and they have to put out extra money to keep their water from freezing outside and have to take one day of their every week to deliver water into the town, and there's other folks in this room that have to do the same thing. That's not fair. It ain't right. I say to anybody who doubts me, put yourself in my shoes and try to live like I have to live every single day, and it ain't right. It just is not right. Thanks.
Yeah, Ray Kemble, Dimock, Pennsylvania. I'm one of the affected landowners in Kemble. I'm one of the affected landowners. Also, I'm an ex-gas worker, and I'm also a Teamster. I got over 16 wells around my house with the gathering lines running all over the place. The runoff from these gathering lines coming off the hillsides have failed. The mud runs down into the property, into the creek beds. The hunting has gone terribly bad in my area. There's nothing worth hunting because of all the gathering lines and the well pads. I got the one compressor station sitting down the road, blew up a couple years ago, rattled my house. That was the Lathrop compressor station. I got the Teal compressor station a half mile down the road the other end, which totally contaminates the whole valley with the air. When they blow that compressor station off, you can barely breathe in the valley. This is just numerous of the problems. I drove a truck for 3 years for the gas industry. Between the cross-contaminations that we do with the trucks, the illegal dumpings that we have done, the blowouts that we've done where they put gathering lines and they blow out, and we've gone in the middle of the night to do these cleanups, is just ridiculous. It's one of the reasons I quit and I started speaking out, because I just couldn't do this in my own county where I live. My house is absolutely worth zero. I have a buffalo sit out there, just like Matt and Tammy. We have to truck the water in so we can turn around and take a shower. We should not have to live like this. I'm tired of it. I don't want any more wells around me. I don't want any more pipelines in the county. I would just prefer to see the whole dang thing out of Susquehanna County. Thank you.
Clifford.
My name is Rebecca Roeder, R-E-B-E-C-C-A-R-O-T-E-R, and I live less than a mile from the Willians Central Compressor Station. Since the weather has warmed up, I can hear the low-frequency vibration rumble from the station 24/7. The sound is associated with Vibrio acoustic disease, which can, among other things, affect cardiac function. If I can hear it, that means the air is blowing my way, and so are all the toxic air emissions like benzene, formaldehyde, nitrogen oxides, PM2.5, and more hazardous air pollutants per the PADEP air pollution permits that bring along known human health risks ranging from headaches, nosebleeds, sore throats, to cancer, etc. I cannot help but wonder if these toxic air emissions blowing my way have anything to do with my recent sore throat, earache, and general upper respiratory symptoms. Williams still denies the Central Station is the beginning of the FERC project, the 30-inch transmission line, the Constitution Pipeline, which lets them off the hook for any accountability to our community for any comprehensive environmental impact study, cumulative air and public health study, real estate devaluation, increased truck traffic, road damage, induced build-out, and general safety living around all the infrastructure. We have no setbacks for any infrastructure except compressors, which is a mere 300 feet. This is a dangerous industry happening in our backyards, front yards, and schoolyards, and no one is accountable to us for transparency or our safety. The services comparable to Wild Well out of Houston, Texas, were required twice that I know of in the past year in my township to deal with dangerous, out-of-control wells. It takes 24 hours for the emergency crew to get here. No one voluntarily tells us anything, whether it's a mercaptan spill, an out-of-control well, a blowdown, compressor explosions, and fires, all of which we've experienced. This is our new normal. There is no system to notify residents living around infrastructure when there are incidents. We are out of the loop when it comes to public safety and transparency. A month ago, a Chevron well pad exploded in Greene County, Pennsylvania, and incinerated a 300-foot radius. An industry worker, Ian McKee, was killed. We should not forget him. We are out of the loop when it comes to public safety. At this explosion, a half-mile radius was blocked off for public safety in Greene County. Setbacks from homes, schools, other human dwellings are a real safety issue in our county. I'm also concerned about setbacks for well pads from compressors. The Tetic well pad, which is not that far from the Williams Central, if that well pad blows, would the central station also blow, and that's the slated beginning of this 30-inch transmission line? That would be a fireball. Many of my neighbors and myself would possibly be incinerated. Jeffrey Weiss, PIMSA's head of safety, told a newspaper reporter the regulatory process he oversees is kind of dying. He said PIMSA has very few tools to work with in enforcing safety rules. He noted a $2 million civil penalty would not hurt a major corporation. PIMSA is creating a YouTube channel to persuade the industry to voluntarily improve its safety operations and is reaching out to us, the public, to socialize the issue. I asked FERC, need you hear more? The head of PIMSA Safety flat out said he cannot protect us from this project. Deny this application as Williams and Cabot segmented the project to avoid accountability to our community and because even PIMSA acknowledges they can't protect us. You at FERC have an opportunity to take America back for rural communities like mine or to give a corporate partnership, eminent domain, to steal American land to export an American resource, natural gas, overseas to maximize corporate profit, leaving us with all the environmental, health, and socioeconomic costs. Do the right thing by America and deny this application.
Did you say my name?
Yes. Do you want me to spell it? Just go ahead and... my name is Barbara Clifford. I am a member of the Executive Council of Breathe Easy, Susquehanna County, BESC, and I am reading the following comments on behalf of BESC.
Into the mod.
Can I start with 1 second? Start over? Pardon? I can't hear you.
A little picky. You might need to get a little closer. Thanks.
Okay. Should I start from the beginning?
Yes, please.
Okay. My name is Barbara Clifford. I am a member of the Executive Council of Breathe Easy, Susquehanna County, BESC, and I am reading the following comments on behalf of BESC. Our mission and goal is to protect regional air quality and health of communities in Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania, from potentially harmful air emissions released through the processes of shale gas extraction, production, and transport. We therefore ask FERC to deny a certificate of convenience, eminent domain, to Williams and Cabot for the Constitution Pipeline. As the Constitution Pipeline project would absolutely induce development in our county and absolutely worsen our air quality, we ask FERC to deny the project outright. We want FERC to acknowledge Williams' use of segmentation, showing a lack of transparency and honesty about concern for our community. Williams continues to state the Williams Central Station is not part of this FERC project, thereby evading any required environmental impact statement for our county. We further ask FERC to require Williams and Cabot to do a comprehensive air study from upstream to midstream to characterize the air pollution during drilling, fracking, flaring, green completions, pipeline fugitive emissions, and dehydrators and compressors. We ask that fugitive emissions be part of this study and that the Picaro surveyor be employed. We ask for an independent team of researchers representing all stakeholders to conduct this comprehensive air study and to also evaluate cumulative public health impacts. We ask that continuous emissions monitoring systems be employed in this study at all natural gas sites and for the data to be totally transparent for public review. We recommend that Dr. Michael McCauley, PhD, Toxicology Department Chair, West Virginia School of Public Health, Dr. Robert Jackson, Duke University, Dr. Theo Colborn, endocrinologist, Dr. Marilyn Howarth, University of Pennsylvania Center for Excellence in Environmental Toxicology, and Dr. David Brown of the Southwest Environmental Health Project be consulted on and participate in designing and implementing this comprehensive air and public health study. Thank you.
Finan, Daniel, Reynolds.
F-R-A-N-K, F-I-N-A-N. I just want to make one point. As a concerned citizen of Susquehanna County, I'm distressed about the changes in air quality due to natural gas extraction, and I object to this pipeline. Although pipelines appear to be benign, they will demand compressor stations to move the gas through the line. The compressors not only move the gas, they remove the impurities and release them into our breathing air. Benzene and formaldehyde are just two of the poisons they emit. This activity is not acceptable and it should not be permitted. I'd like to give the rest of my time to Matt Walker, if that's possible. Pardon?
DANIELREYNOLDS. Guys, I know you guys are upset. I happen to be a pipeliner. Sorry. I'm sorry you guys are upset. I'm sorry some things have happened to you. I happen to be a pipeliner. I've been pipelining for about 4 to 5 years. Now, I grew up in this area. I graduated from Blue Ridge High School. I still own property down here. I hunt, I fish. I'm a naturalist myself. But I will say this. I grew up on farms in this area, and I'll tell you what, if an accident happens on the pipeline, we take care of it. We have diaper kits, spill kits, so on and so forth. And I know growing up on the farm, we didn't have any of that stuff. I know how many hydraulic lines have broken on the farm, how many water lines, radiators, antifreeze, and before this new environmental antifreeze, guess what? We're using the old green stuff that would kill your cats, kill your dogs, and kill the cows. I'm sorry if you guys have issues. I can't help that. But what I can say is all the farms that I've worked on in this area have polluted way more than any pipeline that I have ever been a part of putting in the ground. I know that doing pipelines, you may not understand it. My house that I live at up in Endicott, New York, was built in '54, has natural gas heat. Guess what? That pipeline that gives me my heat and my hot water was there long before I got there. These pipelines have been coming through the area since the 30s, and a lot of these older pipelines need to be replaced. And I can understand, like I said, everybody has heartache, but those old lines that were put in the 30s and the 40s, if they're not replaced, the dangers you think you have now are nothing compared to what a new pipeline will do. The coating alone on new pipelines lasts longer than the lines that are in the ground now. I know that I've been part of projects where we replace old lines. And I've been in projects in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, New York now. And I will say this, your invasive species, I don't know much about that, I'm sorry, I don't. But of stuff that I've read in West Virginia, a lot of the deer population are coming back to pipelines. A lot of the hunters are happy because things are starting to get back to pipelines. Those pipeline right-of-ways, I don't know the invasive species, I really don't. But when you have habitat that's coming back where people can hunt again, fish again, All I know is that anything that I've ever seen on the pipeline has been done safely. Any spill that I've ever been a part of, whether I may have caused it, hydraulic line breaks, that happens. But I'll tell you, the farms I've ever grown up on, we never had spill kits. We never had diapers. You know what we did? We kicked the dirt over the hydraulic fluid and walked away. The diesel fuel spilling on the farms that I've worked on, are you kidding me? If you've spent any time on a farm, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'll tell you what, that doesn't happen on a pipeline. Pipeline is the safest transmission of natural gas. It's safer than above ground. It's safer than the oil line in Alaska. Putting it in the ground, burying the line, is the safest way to transmit the gas. I'm not here to pound the drum for independence of oil, independence of natural gas. I'm trying to do the safest, cleanest job that I can do because I have property in Susquehanna County. I hunt and fish in Susquehanna County. I hunt and fish in New York. And I don't want my deer going away. I don't want my fish, my trout, my smallmouth bass. 30 seconds, please. I don't want any of that stuff ruined. That's why when I work the pipeline, I do it the safest possible way I can do it every day. Thank you very much.
Meyrl, Solar, John, Heptig. John, Heptig.
My name is John Heptig. That's John and then Heptig, and I'm a candidate for state representative. I'm running as a Democrat in the primary, unopposed, in District 111, which will cover, starting in next election cycle, will cover most of Susquehanna and Wayne County. Now, I don't want to be a candidate or a politician who speaks out of both sides of his mouth or is very vague on what he stands for. I'm just going to cut straight to the point. I do support a ban on fracking. I believe that hydraulic fracturing should be our absolute last resort, not our first. And before I continue, I should just mention that I didn't realize I was going to be speaking today, so I just quickly jotted down some notes here. So sorry if I don't sound so great here. So anyway, I believe water is our most valuable resource, and I would hate to see something happen in Pennsylvania that happened down in West Virginia. Now, I'm a big supporter of unions, and one reason is because they are very responsible. They follow all the regulations, all the guidelines. My dad, he works for IBEW. However, I have worked as an engineer for the last 7 or 8 years, and the one thing I got out of that is I realized that human beings are incapable of making perfect designs, and all it takes is one incident, and you have something like you have, like I said, West Virginia, Gulf of Mexico. Now, there's 2 big reasons why people want this. One is for energy independence, and the other one is for money, jobs, etc. Now, when it comes to energy, obviously I believe in green energy, and I realize that there's a big argument against the wind doesn't always blow, the sun doesn't always shine, that sort of thing. However, there are an infinite number of things we can do to reduce how much fuel we use. I grew up in Pittsburgh, and they were constantly building new homes out in the suburbs. All the old homes near the city are going abandoned, and then so people are driving an hour to work, wasting gas. Not only that, but you're tearing down the rainforest, etc. Then you think about all the jobs you see on, turn on the TV, you look at all these commercials on TV, you think about all the people who have to drive to work every day to do those jobs. I mean, it's just wasteful energy. Those people could be, working on other things that are for, sustainable living. Then when it comes to, money, we're the richest country in the world. There's no reason we need to pollute our water. There's, I hate to use the word infinite again, but there's an infinite number of things we could do as far as money, building high-speed rail, et cetera, et cetera. And that's all I got, but I just want to let you know I'll be, you know, here afterwards, probably near the door there. I got a handful of flyers in case people are interested in some of my other ideas, but thanks for your time.
Meyrl, Solar. Tony, Baroni.
Meyrl Solar, am I close enough to the mic? Meryl Solar. I'm a resident of New Milford Township. I live here. The Constitution is planned for about 2,000 feet from my back door. It's just on my neighbor's property. Mine, I only have 5 little acres. And I just lived through the construction of the Bluestone gathering line, which follows the same route as the Constitution, so here we go again. Destroyed roads, crushed sluice pipes, so now I have a moat in front of my house. I mean, I can't begin to tell you all the nightmares. And I really wasn't planning on saying anything because I've been going through this for 2 years now. When they first came up with the Constitution, and then it, you know, the land people were coming to do the surveys and badgering us. So the only thing I have left to say, and I guess it's because I have no more delusions that FERC's role in this is to decide if the Constitution will move forward, but just when and how many tweaks need to be done along the way to make more people smile, more landowners smile while they're manipulating them. You know, so I've had many conversations with people from FERC, and what I've come to understand is that they are under governmental, congressional mandate, basically, to assume that the need for the natural gas is there and the pipeline is a necessity. So that just really brings me to one last question. Or one last issue. FERC's tasked with issuing a certificate of public convenience and public necessity. And I really have to think long and hard about what exactly that means. And I think it's FERC that needs to think long and hard about what exactly that means. Because every day you wake up and you hear more about gas being sold to China and India and everywhere else that it's needed by the industry so they can maximize their profits from this resource. Then you hear about the government starting to think about how we can deflate the Russian threat on the Ukraine and supply our natural gas resources in place of theirs to the Ukraine and Western Europe. So now we're thinking of it as a political ploy. So I have to ask the question, is this really a certificate of public convenience and necessity? Or maybe it should be called a certificate of political expediency and collusion with industry for their convenience, their profit, at our expense. Thank you. And please, I ask you guys, you've cut so many good speakers off. I didn't use my 4 minutes. Can you please give it to someone else who needs it?
I need it. I need it.
Tony Baroni.
I'm Tony Baroni. R. Anthony Baroni for the record. A-N-D-H-O-N-Y, B-A-R-O-N-I. I live in New Milford on Sutton Road. Till now, I thought it was safe to say most of Susquehanna County was in favor of gas development. I've been in favor of it. I've sold a gas lease. I've leased sold a right-of-way across my property. Bluestone put their pipeline through my property. I was impressed with the care they took putting it through. But dealing with Constitution is pushing me toward the ranks of the anti-gas people. Constitution wants to run their pipeline across my property, and I'm not agreeable. But they tell me that this is a federal project, so you can't stop us. We're just coming through whether you want it or not. They're using this tactic to bully us, and I really hate that. I despise it, and it turns me off. Now, I've received various letters and phone calls over the last year from them. The first one I threw away because it told me, you better agree with this and just sign up because if you start negotiating with us, your terms are only going to get worse. And their terms were half of what Bluestone paid me, so they were bad to begin with. Well, since I tried contacting people, when I'd make contacts and make appointments, they'd make appointments to come and see me, guy wouldn't show up, never call, never apologize. 3 times this happened. I finally got dealing with a man that's polite and he's agreeable to deal with, but I don't like what he says. So I'm disagreeable because they're rude, heavy-handed. I feel like I'm being bullied. My experience with Bluestone did not go well. They dug a ditch, they mounded up my dirt. I was barred from going on most of my property for over a year. They said it would take a month or 2. And they were good to deal with. One thing they did was they purchased options to purchase first. And if they ran into a landowner who didn't want to deal with them, they'd find another way around dealing with cooperative landowners. So I have some questions or comments on the impact statement. I don't know if FERC actually verifies what is in the document is correct or accurate. Or do they just take it at face value unless we point out various inaccuracies? Now, I've studied what I could. This huge document, and I don't know what palistry and emergent wetland and all this stuff is. I'd still be on Google trying to figure it out, but I'll talk about what I know. The inaccuracies, there are inaccuracies on my property. The maps I was given only a month ago show the pipeline running on the north side of Sutton Road. My property is on the south side of Sutton Road. The overall map showed the map not even going through my property. Well, apparently it was wrong. The line will go through my property according to the detailed map. But the detailed map showed it crossing the Bluestone pipeline on my property. And the Bluestone pipeline was shown in a position that was 90 degrees off the way the Bluestone is. So they're not being very careful here. Appendix L itemizes wetland crossings. It shows a pipeline coming onto my property through a wetland. It's 48 feet long, and another crossing off my property, a wetland. Oh boy, I'm never going to make it. I got some of his time, don't I? Yep. Her time. Anyway, they get these inaccuracies. I don't know what to do about them. Okay. Here's something not spelled out in the environmental impact statement. The proposed pipeline, this is from the very first sentence in the proposed pipeline project was developed in response to market demands in New York and New England and due to interest from shippers that require transportation capacity from Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania to existing Tennessee, blah, 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 blah. This point is not expanded on in the 5 bullets on the next page, where they tell about all the wonderful things this is going to do for us. But they should have a 6th bullet that says something like, bringing our gas to port cities will allow this gas to be shipped overseas to be sold. This will greatly increase the demand of the gas, thus raising the price and ultimately profits. Think about it. Is this good for us, the residents of Susquehanna County, the residents of the United States? I have serious doubts. I urge you, do not approve it. They use this fact that it's a federal project to bully us. Their work has been inaccurate. They prefer eminent domain than to adjust the line to avoid it, and the project will serve big energy companies, not Americans, if this gas is shipped overseas.
Alex Lotorto.
What do you say?
Alex. Oh, wait, is there first?
Somebody before. Who's first?
Barry Foreman Jr. Alex Lotorto.
my ALEXLOTORTO. I'm speaking partially on behalf of my organization. It's called Energy Justice Network. Our organization focuses on the intersection of social justice and the environment, and a large amount of the work that I've done in the last year and a half that I've consulted with them is talking to union members about what I call a just transition. And I'll speak to this very briefly, but the concept is that good jobs and a healthy environment are not mutually exclusive. It's not a very radical concept. We've been doing it in the timber industry in Pennsylvania for many years. Since Gifford Pinchot was governor, he put in a forestry program, sustainable yield logging. Instead of tree plantations, we have select cuts. It creates more jobs. It keeps our timber hardwood industry going. And that's an industry that also I'd like to point out, as I use that example often, is going to be directly impacted by the use of our forests for pipeline infrastructure, well pads, and it's a historical rural heritage industry. It's one of many that we have here in rural Pennsylvania. Workers across our state, our largest assets, and I'm sure many of the men in this room would say it, is their homes. And you raise wages for your families, and you pay into your mortgage, and your home becomes a proud homestead for yourself and your family and generations yet to come. Well, we've heard from landowners here, and I can say that there's landowners from all the way from Pike County, where the Tennessee pipeline just finished last year, that would say that their property values were decreased by this eminent domain process, that they were not compensated fairly, and that essentially, because their homes are devalued, their wages were stolen. You know, I worked very closely with some union retirees that have retired to the Poconos, and I'm sure there's plenty in the Endless Mountains that have chosen this area to live and to enjoy. And the Catskills, where some of you are from, and upstate, you'd say the same thing. When we industrialize our rural landscape, we displace our traditional rural heritage industries that include agriculture, real estate, tourism, recreation, hardwoods, stone, construction, all the other things that we could have. And I'd like to add, that was mentioned by our candidate here, John Heptig, you know, that green energy technology, he's a young engineer. You know, we've innovated our way out of problems throughout history in America. You know, electric car components have to be made. Wind turbine blades have to be made. Solar panels have to be made. Homes have to be weatherized. Buildings, commercial building projects have to be built to new codes so that we can have those kinds of jobs in the future. That's where we need to be focused. When we spend billions and billions of dollars building up this temporary industry that's not going to last generations yet to come, you displace that opportunity and you push it down the road, and we always talk about generations yet to come. And I'd like to say, you know, my union, I'm here for also to speak just as a union guy, is Industrial Workers of the World. We invented the phrase, an injury to one is an injury to all. And I implore the unions that are involved in negotiating these project labor agreements, please look at the costs to the workers and the path of this pipeline, the people who live next to these wells that have to be drilled to supply the line, the compressor stations that emit toxic emissions. Don't just say, as long as I got mine. Say, an injury to one is an injury to all, because that's the concept of labor. Now, the last point I want to make is labor and environmentalists have a unique partnership we can make with each other. Our political enemies are the same. The people who want to pass right-to-work legislation are the same people who want to put pipelines in the ground. And when you lobby on behalf of these companies, you pump money directly into their pockets that they use to support our political enemies. And I have to tell you, right here in Pennsylvania, we've been fighting a right-to-work bill, and the politicians pushing it, including our Governor Tom Corbett, are receiving millions of dollars of donations from these companies. So we have a lot of other angle to think about. So please be careful with how we treat each other, because I would like to build better relationships with you.
My name is Barry Corrigan, Jr., C-O-R-R-I-G-A-N. I didn't prepare anything. I'm just here as an impacted people. I have an intimate relationship with people who have been drilled and are part of the collecting of the gas. They're getting paid to get the gas. Their payment percentage starts with a decimal point and 3 zeros. I don't know if you know what that means when you're trying to measure something, but you can't see it. It's stupid. Their land has been robbed from them, and they have been lied to on a daily basis. Now they want to run a Constitution pipeline through their land. You people have nothing to worry about, because the Constitution pipeline says that we can't go anywhere else but through their land, and they're going to say no. If you say no, they can't do it. This eminent domain thing is garbage. They can only do that if they have no other alternative. Well, as long as you don't give them any other alternative, they can't do it. You own the land. It belongs to you. They can't just come in and tell you, oh, by the way, this land is no longer worth anything, and we're going to ruin the area all around for your neighbors. They can't just do that. Not without ludicrous compensation. I mean, if they want to walk in and say, okay, we'll give you 2% of everything that goes through the pipeline and make that go into the community, well, now maybe we're talking about something that might be negotiable. And maybe there would be people that would be willing to allow you to do it. I mean, the gas is here. It's got to get out, don't get me wrong. I don't misunderstand that. But what's happening to the people that live here while all of you go out and make your billions of dollars is like this. And it's wrong, and you're ruining them, and you're lying to them. I yield my...
Hi, my name is Matt Walker, M-A-T-T-W-A-L-K-E-R, and I'm the Community Outreach Director with Clean Air Council. Hold on one second here. This came loose. Clean Air Council is an environmental health organization with members throughout Pennsylvania, including Susquehanna County. For more than 40 years, the council has fought to protect everyone's right to breathe clean air. Since the Constitution pipeline was first proposed, many residents noticed a strange coincidence that Willians Midstream happened to be proposed at the start constructing a natural gas compressor station in Brooklyn Township, PA, at the exact location where the Constitution pipeline would begin. The public also noticed a glaring omission in the application of FERC for this pipeline project: no compressor station at the beginning of the pipeline. It's unusual for compressor stations to not be proposed at this stage of the project. Because the expanded central compressor station will likely play a critical role in the functioning of the Constitution pipeline if it is built, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, should definitely consider the impacts of that expansion and the impacts of the operation of the compressor station in general as part of its cumulative impacts review of the project. FERC has argued that the station was developed for a different project and would be operating in any case. Clean Air Council argues that this is an unacceptable abandonment by FERC of its responsibilities to consider cumulative impacts. Frankly, it doesn't matter how many pipelines Williams can discharge gas from the central station or who owns the project. The point is that the air and water impacts associated with the station must be considered and quantified in the EIS. FERC must also include a more detailed discussion about the right compressor station, which would allow gas from the Constitution to enter into both Iroquois and the Tennessee gas pipeline in New York. FERC must include in the final EIS an analysis of direct and indirect air quality and greenhouse gas impacts that will result from the projects, including emissions generated by future wells and gathering compressor stations induced by the availability of a nearby transmission conduit. Constitution is required by law to allow other companies to use their pipeline, so that the existence of the pipeline will likely spur more facilities. The National Environmental Policy Act requires FERC to take into account the incremental impacts of the proposed pipeline when added to other past, present, or reasonably foreseeable projects, regardless of what agency or person builds them or allows them. FERC should not be looking for reasons to abandon that responsibility. FERC also erroneously stated in the draft EIS that the majority of air pollution impacts would be short-term and from construction activities. This clearly demonstrates that FERC did not consider the 24-hour, 7 days a week harmful air emissions from at least 2 compressor stations and 2 metering stations that are necessary to make the Constitution pipeline function, not to mention other gathering stations that are already being constructed to discharge gas to Constitution. The Council urges FERC to reconsider these impacts by quantifying in the final EIS both projected emissions from the facilities and indirect emissions that result from the project, such as increased drilling and additional stations. Compressor stations will cause the most air pollution over the life of the pipeline. And if FERC were to add the emissions up from all the infrastructure, the Commission would find that they would indeed add up to creating a significant impact on air quality and public health in the region. FERC stated that there is no standard methodology to evaluate the cumulative impacts of Constitution's greenhouse gases on climate change, but then later concluded that the emissions from this project are insignificant since they are only a small percentage of total U.S. greenhouse gas emissions. This is a woefully inadequate analysis and conclusion. With this logic, the more pipelines FERC permits, the less significant their impacts become. The Council implores FERC to take this issue seriously and develop a more scientific protocol for evaluating greenhouse gas emissions. In closing, the Council requests that FERC redo their cumulative impacts analysis to include the air quality impacts from compressor stations associated with this pipeline or those that could result from the building of the Constitution pipeline. Please do your due diligence in researching and incorporating public testimony and comments before issuing the final EIS. Residents need a government agency that will listen to and address their concerns. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm Catherine Holleran, Holleran. I'm a resident of New Milford, this very area. We live about 6 miles away, and this Constitution pipeline is being routed directly through our entire 25-acre parcel, which is not a lot of acreage. I know it's going many, many miles, so our little 25-acre parcel, we really don't want to have sliced and split. It's coming from the south, going up the west border of our property, cutting through to the east, making an arbitrary detour to purposely cut through the middle and go east into the neighboring property. Doing this, it goes through all our woods, where we have many, many mature maple trees that we use for maple syrup production. It's in full swing right now, and we boil the sap and make maple syrup, and these trees take 50 to 60 years to get to the minimum 10-inch diameter in order to tap them, and this root will wipe out most of that sugar bush behind our house. Not to mention, we live on a lake, a little private lake, and the other side of our property is the border of it, and there's a major inlet stream to that lake that they're cutting right through. So that is a major environmental impact on the wetlands and the lake, and possibly the quality of the lake water, not to mention our well, which is very close proximity. But the other, of which I know everybody here has problems with going through their land in one way or another. But one of the issues I want to bring up that nobody else has brought up is that one of the things that's cutting through, besides several stone walls on our property that have been there for many, many years, decades, is that we have archaeological cylindrical stone piles that are near our stream and on the hillside on our property. These are archaeological structures that they're still determining the value of. My daughter is a professional archaeological field technician. She graduated from Temple University in her anthropology degree. She has worked on several pipelines, including this one, and she assesses and protects cultural resources in accordance with federal law, which they have to do in order to put the pipeline through. We know for a fact that the cultural significance of these stone piles has yet to be determined, and that it is not considered acceptable yet to simply destroy them. The demolition of an obviously cultural structure without knowledge of what it is or what we can learn from it is criminal. Although cultural resource surveys have been done on the entire proposed route, it's also true that there's been no determination on what research and excavation must be done before stone piles can be destroyed. As far as I know, so far the current policy has been to avoid the issue. Also, this route has been surveyed for cultural resources. However, the predictive modeling that they are using to determine where the actual physical testing will take place has been done on large sections of land, sometimes miles at a time, to be tested solely by pedestrian survey. That means they just kind of walk around and look at it. Instead of the digging and sifting for prehistoric and historic artifacts, which is what my daughter does, and as an archaeologist, they do shovel testing. A lot of times they don't require them to go and do the shovel testing, which they are supposed to. They just have a pedestrian do a survey by walking around. This is unusual for a project proposing such extensive and irreversible destruction, and it really even begs the question of what might have been missed that you're digging up and destroying and wiping out when you clear cut a 100-foot wide corridor. Even more so than the environmental resources, the cultural resources cannot be replaced once they're destroyed, and the information that we might have learned from our buried history can never be recovered. And I just want to also mention that, like many of you other landowners, we will be paying taxes forever on a huge swath of our property, of our 25 acres, probably a quarter to 1/3 of the entire property that we will pay taxes on when it could already follow the bluestone pipeline that's up on the top of the hill, like many other people. Thank you.
Howard, H-O-W-A-R-D, Hannum, H-A-N-N-U-M. I'm going to start with a quote from my distinguished colleague from Unadilla, New York, who stated so eloquently in Richmondville on Monday night, "Not one job should ever be accepted with this project as a result of and through the use of eminent domain proceedings." In regard to the shenanigans of the last 2 evenings in Afton, New York last night and Oneonta, New York the night before, the concerned citizens of Trout Creek demand a redo on the Oneonta hearing from Tuesday night, April 1st, 2014. The three of you should be ashamed of yourselves. You are an insult to your organizations and your positions, and you are a disgrace to yourselves and your families. The concerned citizens of Trout Creek demand a redo in respect for the disenfranchised, directly affected landowners that weren't able to speak.
That's Christina with a K. Turechek, T-U-R-E-C-H-E-K. I come from New York State. I'm not all that close to the Constitution. I know people who are going to be affected. It's very upsetting to hear what's been happening down in Pennsylvania. In person here, I've been reading about troubles down here. We have a beautiful 65 acres, and every time I hear something about what has happened, and reading, I didn't read all 945 pages, but reading about wetlands, slopes, the interior forests, the migratory birds, the streams, the ponds, the seeps, all the creatures. We have them too, probably different, but maybe a lot the same. We're afraid of the fracking, and that's one reason we're afraid of the Constitution coming through. But just to imagine what these people have been through, it's unimaginable. I was going to talk about homework. It seems the Constitution has a lot of homework to do. And it was handy to see in the dEIS, in bold, you had there were 38 items that they had to accomplish. It seems like most of them had to be done and completed before the end of this period here. And I don't know how much they've already done. But for instance, and people have mentioned this, the upland forest plan, that's one of them that has to be completed. The upland forest mitigation plan. Again, mitigation, I don't believe in that word. I think it's a fiction. And then prior to construction, the final complete results of invasive plant surveys has to be done. The blasting, the in-stream blasting of any water body crossing, that plan has to be done. And just for instance, all the outstanding biological surveys have to be completed, including the monkshood surveys. I mean, I don't know how much they've already done. This is a draft, but to call it a statement seems a little bit over the top because there's so much left to be done. As I said, in bold, there were 38 items in the first part, and then you have the FERC staff's recommended mitigation section. I noticed that that contains some of those other ones. By the way, mitigation, I noticed there are about 400 entries if you try to find the word. 408 entries. That's a lot of mitigation to be done. One of the things, I did have a question about, I noticed that they are going to try to take care not to cut trees. I imagine that means clear cutting, you know, when you're doing a whole swath. During the winter time, on account of the birds, I wondered about that because if you cut, 20 seconds, if you cut a whole lot down, what happens in that whole area when birds come back? I mean, they're territorial. Where do they go? The last thing I want to say is the sacrifice that's through compulsory integration that may happen in New York, through eminent domain, forced pooling, whatever. If any of that gas goes out of this country, I think that's treason. Thank you.
I've been listening to everybody, and it's especially the people who are local. Some of the people I know, some I don't. My name is Vera Scroggins, sorry. VERASCROGGINS. I'm from Silver Lake Township. I just have to say that it was very painful to hear what we have to go through because of this infrastructure, because of the drilling the past 5 or 6 years, and that when we have another pipeline coming in, that means for us more drilling. If they have a 30-inch pipeline going in, they need more gas. So where are they going to get it from? Not from you New Yorkers at this point. You're not being fracked or drilled like we are. They'll be coming out here and drilling ever more. They've only done 25% approximately of our county. So that means we have another 75% that they want to drill. We have 800 wells so far. And the main company, we have 6 companies in this county. The main one is Cabot, that has the biggest amount of leased properties, and that's the company that has contracted to use the Constitution and fill it up with gas. And that company has 540 DEP violations so far in 5 years, in our county alone. You know what that sounds like? And millions in fines. So you met some of our residents who have damaged and contaminated water. We have 6 sections areas in our county where there's families with contaminated water since drilling near their homes and fracking. Those are the ones that we know of so far that have come forward, and Cabot is allowed to continue to operate. Would you union people who are here, if you had 540 violations in your specific union possibly, would they let you to continue working as they allow this company to continue to operate? This company should have its permit pulled, so therefore it cannot ever put another ounce of gas in any kind of a pipeline, whether it's the Constitution, the Bluestone, or any pipeline. It's a disgrace what our country is doing to us. It's a good disgrace what they're doing to Americans, that they would allow such a thing. I want to show you one of our lovely t-shirts that we have. We were told by one of the designers of fracking, Mr. Terry Engelder, he's a professor of Penn State. He called us a necessary sacrifice. Would you like to be called a necessary sacrifice? He thought that was okay. He doesn't live in our county. He doesn't have any kind of gas drilling near his home. He doesn't have rigs near his home. He doesn't have pipelines, and especially a 30-inch pipeline with high-pressure gas up to 1,500 pounds per square inch next to his home. And he has the nerve to call us a necessary sacrifice. He came to our county. I gave him a tour. I give tours to people. I gave him a tour, and I showed him what we have to live with. This is what we have to live with, Terry. Is this okay for you? And you continue to be a professor at Penn State, a disgrace. You should be also just taken out of your position.
Evening, Craig Stevens, C-R-A-I-G, S-T-E-V-E-N-S, sixth-generation landowner, Silver Lake Township, Pennsylvania, fifth-generation New Yorker. Yeah, my dad makes me carry it all the time. He's been dead for 7 years, but that's called the rule book, guys. That's the Constitution. Let me read it for you again. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. That's Amendment 5, if you haven't read that before. You guys are all being lied to. I mean, this public, you can't call this public use. It's a private property you're stealing to go through a private corporation's pipeline, the gas, to go to another private corporation at some port city to ship the gas to a foreign country. You try this, I'm going to sue you, and everybody else is going to sue the federal government and our state. Governor Drillbit won't stand up for us, but I'll tell you who will. Probably Governor Cuomo will tell you guys to get lost, because states' rights over trumps federal, especially when you're stealing private property. Now, when my pipeline got installed, because guys, I'm all in. I got a gas lease. They put a pipeline across my property. It's owned by Williams now. It was Laser. When they blew out my creek in my backyard 8 times over 2.5 months after telling us they were experts. That's your experts putting stuff in. I've got the documents here. Fish and Boat found them guilty, fined them thousands of dollars, 5 criminal complaints. They did an environmental study too. They didn't follow any bit of it, ruined everything on the property. Then, when one of the mud trucks, when they were sucking up the blowout, oh, by the way, DEP doesn't call them blowout, folks. That's an inadvertent return to surface. I told them, somebody better clean it up or I'm having an involuntary muscle reaction. There's my neighbor, John Jones. You might have known him. He was crushed to death when one of the mud trucks cleaning up that mess flipped over on him. Luckily, he didn't kill his 17-year-old daughter sitting in the passenger seat of his car. She got to watch her dad die over the next 5 minutes. Don't tell me that you guys know what they're doing. The driver, by the way, had no CDL and 3 failed brakes on the truck. You guys are being duped. Here's the tankers they're building. Guess who's building them? China. Biggest ships in the world right now. Going to take every bit of this, liquefy it, and send it out of here. It's not for us. If you think it is, why in the hell were our propane prices like 3 times higher in the last 3 months? You know why? The pipeline that used to bring it up to us from the south is reverse flow, and they're stealing it from us. We are a third world extraction colony. That's what we are. All my timber's worthless. When they cut down hundreds of thousands of acres of trees, you can't give it away. My forester can't even make a living. He's It's got to work for hourly wage for these idiots and cut trees down for them. They're ripping you off too. If you have a lease, look at it. If you haven't read the paper in the last year, they're stealing your own mineral rights by taking away your 12.5% royalty. Most people are getting 3 or 4. This is who we're going to let come in here? Come on, guys. The Constitution guys, go ask them. Oh, we don't know where the gas is going after Albany. Go to their website. One of the key points is LNG exports. Anybody in here smart enough to know when we have low-priced gas right now, when we start competing for Russia, China, India, and Norway for it, we're going to be paying 2 or 3 times as much, just like we are for propane now. Steal your property, rip everybody off, contaminate our property, and if you don't believe these people, come over and try to drink their water. I guarantee it will be an experience you'll never forget if you survive it. Once again, I'm going to finish up by I'm renaming FERC for the 4th time this week. FERC. Foul the environment and rip off the citizens. Thank you very much.
Hi there. Thank you again for allowing me to speak. I'm really going to have trouble summarizing all this in 4 minutes. I'd have trouble in 40 minutes. There's so much defective here. Before I address the FERC guys, I want to talk to landowners here. If there's any landowner here who has signed an agreement with Constitution Pipeline and you regret that, the best thing that you can do, that we all can do to kill this project is for you to send a letter of rescindance or rescension to the applicant. And there is an example of such a letter at stopthepipeline.org. If you need assistance in finding that letter, come find me afterwards, and I will be happy to assist you. Now then, my friend Kevin Heatltey, I don't know if he's still here or not, he was talking, my friend Wendy, Lynne, Lee, were talking about forests. I did a simple numerical analysis of how many trees are going to be destroyed by this pipeline forever. And it's pretty easy. You start with 100 feet right of way, and you multiply it by 121 miles. Turns out that it's 1,466 acres. That's equal to, this is a high school. We got a football field here. You all know how big a football field is. 1,100 football fields. 400 acres of the 1,466 acres are farmland. 400 acres of farmland are going to be permanently lost. Actually, half of that supposedly is going to be reclaimed, but you're not going to be able to farm on top of a pipeline right of way. 300 football fields of farmland lost forever. 430,000 trees. And they say half of that will be reclaimed. Well, you know what? You cut down a tree and you grow a new one, it's not the same. It isn't the same. It's just it's such a smorgasbord. We got the character of the applicant we could look at, Cabot and Williams, a history of noncompliance with the regulations, environmental catastrophes, fatalities, accidents with fatalities. They're like the Three Stooges. I made a little video of them, and it's like, the Three Stooges banging each other with pipes, going, woo, woo, woo. That's what these guys are. They're a bunch of goofballs. They do not deserve a certificate of public convenience, and you must consider the character of the applicant. FERC must, before you decide whether if they are qualified to follow the regulations. There's no indication that they have any intention of following any regulations, and there's a mountain of data to suggest that they won't. They have a history of secrecy. They blow up these compression stations. We've had, out of 4 recent incidents in the last 2 years of compressor stations exploding, we've had 1 public hearing and 1 explanation, and they've been silent on the other 3, and we've been asking for that. There's no, exports, we've been talking about that. My friend over here, Matt Walker, did an excellent job talking about the air impacts of the compressor stations that are not there.
They're not in the dEIS. They're called, I'm trying to think of the term, they're called related but non-jurisdictional facilities. What the heck does that mean? Related but non-jurisdictional? FERC has used an improper analysis of whether they are jurisdictional facilities. You are bound by NEPA, the National Environment Policy Act, to include all environmental impacts. You have failed to do that. This thing is a joke. You must take this back, and we are going to do any means necessary within the bounds. I'm a nonviolent person. I can't guarantee that we all are, but we're going to do any means necessary to stop this project. Thank you.
We have to stop meeting like this. Lottie Marsh, M-A-R-S-H. Cabot Williams comes to a zoned rural area and announces they are fully subscribed and will build a pipeline through our properties for 124 miles. Maybe Cabot Williams should check with residents first to find out what the consensus is among the landowners. Sadly, missing from the environmental impact statement is what this process does to people who are slated to have the pipeline through their property. People must be taken into consideration. Who would choose to move to a home with a pipeline running through it? A 30-inch high-pressure pipeline with a burn zone of 4,450 feet, a pipeline that has no odorant, a pipeline that will devalue property, contaminate wells, and end whatever dreams people have for their property. This onslaught is with us every day. Stress and worry about what will happen to our health, home values, forests, our wildlife, our bird sanctuaries, our walking and hiking trails, our night skies, our peace and quiet, our gardens, crops, flowers, our futures. My husband and I worked extremely hard for a very long time to save to buy our farm. We are in the Carrs Creek watershed and have 3 wetlands and 2 ponds on our property. We value and are good stewards of our forest and lands. We follow the best management practices. We are not alone. 70% of landowners along this proposed route have not signed easements, nor do we intend to. Cabot Williams will have to steal our land. The profit is not ours. The damage left behind is ours.
Victoria Schweitzer, V-I-C-T-O-R-I-A, S-W-I-T-Z-E-R. I live in Dimock, and I could read you a book tonight about my front row experience with the gas industry. But I can't write that book, and that's all I'm saying about that. But the question no one has asked you, where did you come up with the name Constitution Pipeline? Because nothing I'm hearing tonight represents the Constitution in any way, shape, or form. Who signs the Constitution? Who endorses the industry at the expense of the citizens that you are to serve? We pay the salaries of EPA, DEP, FERC, yet you serve the industry. The Constitution Pipeline, I just had to ask that question. None of these signatures that I mentioned actually serve the welfare health, or safety of the citizens. It's all to promote and support the industry. You've already made your deals. We might as well just speak. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United Oil and Gas Industry.
Yes, first I'd like to address the audience, then I'll address the board. I'd like to disclose that I and 3 members of my family are proud union members, and I absolutely hate to see this division of pro and anti-pipeline people. If there was a major catastrophe, we would all be working side by side, not giving a damn about our position on this pipeline. And there is no one I would want working next to me more than everyone in this room. But we have to realize that oil and gas companies love pitting us against each other instead of us uniting and looking at their destructive environmental polluting policies. Why do you think unions came into being? Because of the corporations exploiting us. All of you could have just as good jobs with renewable energy companies if oil and gas companies were not stopping the advancement of renewable energy development. Now I'd like to address the board. I'd like to say that we all know that FERC is nothing more than a front for corporations. We all know that. Now I'd like to talk about the contents of the dEIS. A publication that size should have been as clear, concise, and exact as possible, covering all and any questions that could possibly be asked about this project. Instead, I and many others found the wording of that publication to be ambiguous, non-committal, elusive, unspecific, deceptive, unclear, obscure, vague, inexplicit, imprecise, bewildering, generalized, ill-defined, indeterminate, problematic, puzzling, perplexing, evasive, muddled, and abstract. I hope that I have made myself clear. I have no doubt that every single page of the dEIS was written in conjunction with Cabot lawyers, with FERC putting their name and emblem on the front cover. The dEIS is a blatant insult to everyone who received it.
Good evening again. Linda Bevilacqua, B-E-V-I-L-A-C-Q-U-A. A gentleman last night in Afton referred to people opposed to the pipelines as tree huggers. I deeply resent that remark. I live a modern life full of modern amenities, if that's the right word. I choose to live here because of the rural character. And if I wanted to live in a polluted, filled area, I would never have left downstate. Constitution does not have the right to come into my neighborhood, steal my land, pollute my air and water for their corporate profits. Compressor stations, which are part of the pipeline, significantly impact air quality. I'd also like to express my disappointment with FERC's handling of the rowdiness and disrespect that this audience, particularly union members, have displayed. And I'd like to lodge a formal complaint against Charles Brown. I was having a private discussion yesterday when you called a break, and somebody interfered with my conversation, and Charles Brown came in and insulted my husband, and he had no business getting involved in my conversation, and I want a formal complaint lodged against him. The majority of the comments in the last 3 nights, and we have been to every single one, I put miles and miles of mileage on my car. The pipeline's not even going on my property, but I care. I care, my friends, I care about, it's gonna affect, I'm part of the burn zone. I care about the air that I breathe when I come out of my house, and my kids, and my animals. I have a farm. I don't want to smell their toxic air. The majority of the comments were documented by out-of-area union members bribed by various entities. And I feel that as much as they were entitled to their time, most of the time was spent listening to them. When the landowners were talking, we were being heckled and booed, but when their union members were up there, everybody was quiet, and it was very disrespectful, and I think that you, as a FERC panel, should have done something about that. I don't think it should have come to that. Thank you very much.
I'm Thomas Collier, C-O-L-L-I-E-R. I'm an adjacent landowner 4,000 feet from the proposed pipeline route, and I stand to lose land value due to it. These 4 FERC landowner comment sessions have permitted me a glimpse into the corporate state we mask around as a democracy of, for, and by the people. It starts with the dEIS floated out in front of us for all of our review and comment on. It is in and of itself an insulting our intelligence. It was intentionally confusing and incomplete in its form. Next, these sessions themselves, which have descended into near physical confrontation, hopefully not their original intent, were intentionally meant as a forum for people with land affected by the proposed pipeline route, or who stood to lose that land and their nest egg, or have their lifestyle changed forever for corporate profit and shareholder dividends, and to voice their concerns and opinions about the perceived shortcomings of this dEIS. Next is the direction the sessions have taken. I watched as they devolved into conflict between concerned citizens, landowners against each other, not against the actual corporation who wrote these rules and regulations we are supposed to be commenting on. People who may have worked all their lives, possibly even at union jobs, posed unintentionally or intentionally against other citizen landowners, bussed in and compensated to attend these sessions by business agents or employers, to express their need and desire to work in or on a hole in the ground for a fossil fuel corporation for approximately 8 months on potentially stolen land. This is a completely unfair assembly of citizens led to believe we are on opposing sides, evidenced by rudeness and disrespect towards one another. We all need to stop and realize that we are not in disagreement with each other, but the, quote, person, unquote, not in the room trying to control our lives, Williams and Constitution corporations. Let us find that common ground and live together. FERC, your job is to make this right for all of us. This has been an unfairly staged and posed conflict by the very corporation we should all, at the very least, question, and at the very most, totally oppose. Not between each other, or has this all been planned? Think about it and decide for yourself. Good luck, FERC. Your job is a difficult one. We are all restless. Good night and thank you.
Stan Wojciechowski, STANWOJTKOWSKI. I didn't really come here to speak. I didn't really want to say anything. I've been working on the pipeline since '08. I worked on the Millennium Line. I'm in the union. You know, I'm sorry some of y'all have hard feelings and everything, and you talk about invasive species and stuff, man. Florida's got a real bad problem with snakes. I think you might need to go that way. I don't know everything. I care a lot about the land. I do restoration. I've been doing it since '08. I go back, I check sure, I make sure that the land's put back the way it was. I make sure all the ECDs are in, all your silt fence and everything. And I'm sorry some of y'all have some hard feelings here, but I got a young daughter, I got a wife. I mean, without the pipeline, I wouldn't have anything. People around this area have nothing. You're lucky to make $20,000. My parents alone make $12,000 a year. Can y'all live off that? It's hard. And with this pipeline coming into this area, look at all the boom coming through. People are thriving. Look at your Stone's Hardware alone. I've been here for 10 years now. And just everything in this area is just growing and growing. Look at Texas. They've been doing it. You know what I mean? Pipeline's been here. The guy says since 1930s. I know myself, just last year alone, we were on a line that was from the 50s. And we take all precautions, and we really care about our land. We really do. And you know what? A lot of the problems, and I'm not trying to talk bad about any company, but as far as union work goes, when you say union, that means professional work. And when y'all hire these other pipeline companies that are not union, they're hiring people right off the street that don't take training classes, that don't really know anything. And if y'all put this Constitution line and y'all put it for the union, it'll be done, and it'll be done properly and on time. And that's all I got to say.
Barbara Loeffler.
Barbara Loeffler, B-A-R-B-A-R-A-L-O-E-F-F-L-E-R. I wasn't really planning on speaking tonight, but as I thought about this whole thing last night and the document that I tried to pick things out of, my concern now that I'm in Pennsylvania is a concern I had early on, and I questioned what would be the setback in a later time frame, now that the Constitution, thinking that this horrible thing would exist and fracking would begin, what would the setbacks be? And now I'm thinking in terms of Pennsylvania, where it already exists, and they're going to run a pipeline through here. There's nothing in that document that addresses how far away they would have to be from a frack site that can, by their own admission, blow up. What would that do to the pipeline with an 800-foot crater in the ground? Is there an 800-foot setback? I don't think so. Is there a 1,000-foot setback? I'm just very concerned for the people who live within any distance of the new pipeline going through all these frack sites. And as Vera said, 800 wells times 6 million gallons of water a day. And this is going to continue. This is our country's plan for the Northeast of the United States. This is bizarre. Where is all this water coming from? Does the city of New York need no more water? None of our little cities along here need water. Oneonta, you were there the other day. We're in a big valley. What happens to our water when it's gone? We won't get it back. It'll be poisoned. And this pipeline, as I said before, is the aorta for fracking, because when Pennsylvania is sucked dry, we will be next. Thank you.
Epifanio Bevilacqua, E-P-I-F-A-N-I-O, Bevilacqua, B-E-V-I-L-A-C-Q-U-A. I am also a union, Local 79, downstate. I drove 180 miles every weekend each way, came up here, work on the farm. My wife told you I have cows, I have horses, I have sheep, okay? I have 150 acres up here. The corporation is pinning us union guys against each other. We should be in solidarity. I talked to your business agents a while back, 17 and all of them. They don't want to listen. They don't want to hear. Constitution already built the Constitution Compressor Station right here in Franklin and Rebecca Road. It's right up her block. I've been there last year. 50 workers there. No union guys, no guys from Pennsylvania. And your delegates will get the YouTube, thanks to Vera Scroggins. Cabot Oil put an injunction on Vera Scroggins. They should give her a medal. She's a hero for all of us in this room, to make us aware of what they're doing. They're exploiting us union guys against each other. My father, my uncles, they all were in Local 6A, 18A, 20A, okay? You probably know people from all over, just like I do, right? We shouldn't be fighting, we should be understanding each other. Like the lady said, where are we going to get the water? When you don't have no water and you don't have no plants, you can't grow no food. Like I said last night, but some of you had left already. If we're going to start fighting, we're going to eat each other up at cannibals, right? We can't even get along here. These guys are corporations. And we as unions in solidarity, we've been fighting corporations. I was at the 40,000 march. The cops wanted to run me over with horses. They ran over John Lang with the horse that they were going to run me over with, because I was leading the crowd. Louis Montalvo knows me. I spoke to him. I sent him to YouTube with the 50 workers on site. Nobody was union. Not even anybody from Pennsylvania. There was one woman that was 5 hours away here in Pennsylvania. So sign the contract. If it goes through, make sure you put good stewards like I was. I had high-profile jobs in Manhattan. I worked on the high-rise. I worked at the Empire State Building. I worked at the Trade Center. I saw the second plane go into the Trade Center the day it happened, from 745 750th Street, where Morgenthau owned the building, and they sold it to Lehman Brothers, which they went belly up. And they're using our pension money to fuel this. When like you guys are younger than me, you're going to retire. Where's your pension money going to be? They're going to wipe it out. That's what they're using, to drill and drill and drill. Ray Campbell used to be drill, baby, drill. Now he's listed the harm. The list is up to 1,200, plus the gag orders, so they can shut you up and you can't speak. And the doctors even have gag orders. They can't even tell you what's wrong with you. Then we wonder where cancer's coming from. Why don't they do the health impact study first, before they started drilling in Pennsylvania? Ray Campbell and Manning here, she had a granddaughter. She can't even breathe upstairs. Afraid of the house is going to, this is the way you want people to live in your communities? Once they start drilling, plus we're all downwind. All the water from up here is going to go down to 5 boroughs. All my sisters and brothers from Local 79 live mostly in the 5 boroughs.
20 seconds, please.
Then they're going to take it to Long Island, the back fluid, and they're going to bring it to the treatment plants in Long Island. And Food and Water Watch, and everybody knows this. So wake up and let's smell the coffee, everybody. This is a disgrace to the human race, and this is genocide.
Glad they got a hearing.
StopThePipeline.org.
That's right.
Yes, deny the pipeline. Save our lives, save our health, deny the pipeline.
Well, we're doing the ordinance stuff, but the municipal stuff. Yeah. FERC had a 2-hour meeting in February last year for this compressor. And they did them along the route to the Columbia line.